If you look at the work that goes on in most language teaching, what we find is that there is an awful lot of topics, and those topics are generally fairly small. You know what they are: pets, family, transport, food, all of those sorts of things. And so we've had very much an orientation where we've exposed students to facts and information. There's nothing much to say really except to describe. I have a house, it has 6 rooms. Yes, I have a laundry, but in France we don't actually have laundries as such or whatever. And that's the level that we get to in discussion. I ask myself about that and would ask you to ask yourselves about that. How connected would you be to that kind of way of seeing things? The reason why we're inviting a shift towards concepts is that it lifts the discussion to a different level. Let me give an example, and it's one that you've probably heard from me before. But if we take the house, we can, for example, look at the house. The house, we can describe it. Yes, it has a roof, it's got windows, it's got so many rooms. This is the layout. We can draw it, we can name them, label them. Well, that's when we're dealing with the vocab and so on of the house. There's nothing intercultural about that if we stay at the level of description. It's only if we move to the level of concept, and rather than talking just about the house and its rooms and its physical features, but that we get on to the concept of home. What does it mean to be at home in the Chinese way? If we move to the level of concept, it's at that point that intercultural comparisons actually become meaningful and valuable. If not, you're saying, well, my house has got 6 rooms and yours has got 2, and there we go, that's it, big deal. It's a big shift. We're going to illustrate it to some extent. It would need quite a lot of discussion. I hope that we can pick up the discussion online, if not in person today, because I really do see it as a shift that's worth considering, taking the ideas to a higher level in order to engage the learners and in order to make these intercultural comparisons, which we see as so valuable. And I think that concepts enable us to open up language teaching. It does require imagination. In the primary sector, they are really, really useful because they enable a clearer connection, often with the learning that's happening in the mainstream. We have a lovely module in the Chinese curriculum that we've been developing, which is a module on harmony. And one of the lines of development is a unit on gardens and looking at particular gardens, but not just as the plants and the flowers and the vegetables and so on, but what gardens actually mean to people, and being in harmony with yourself and nature through the garden is the ultimate message. Why do we need to do it? We have to do it because it is only at that level of thinking conceptually and discussing the concept of things that we actually can begin to look at ideas interculturally. If not, we will never move out of the everyday of simply describing.
And then we end up in similarities and differences.
And then, of course, the usual trope, and that's become just an absolutely routine trope. If we're talking about anything, any comparison about cultures, A, it tends to be about cultures, and B, it is just staying at observation of similarities and differences. Where does that get us? But it doesn't actually lead to understanding what makes people situated in that particular cultural context be as they are. Why is it that in the Indonesian way we have got that object focus construction linguistically to actually represent the way in which an Indonesian person presents himself or herself to another? Why is it that in the Japanese way we have got the whole system of honorifics that actually marks the hierarchy in society? We may not like it, but it's part and parcel of Japaneseness. We will learn very little apart from the surface features of other languages and cultures unless we go to the level of concept. I just can't emphasise it enough.
And I think for me, going to the level of concept also means that the learner can see themselves in it, because if we stay with the description and the similarities, differences, then it becomes us, this, them, that, and why should I care? But if you go to the level of concept, the concept of home that we often talk about, students can bring their understanding, their interpretation, their experiences to the table.
And the comparison is not about this culture and that culture, but the comparison is, okay, so that's what it's like in Michelle's home. Angela's home is different again. Tony's home is different again. And students are not there comparing, but they're saying, oh, I'd never thought about home in that way. I had never made that particular connection. And it's in that way then that their own way of thinking about themselves is expanded.
And about the idea itself.
And about the idea itself, of course.
And that's really what I think languages can provide, is that expansion into other ways of knowing and seeing the world.
Yes, because if we wanted to stay with one way, we would stay in one language. We wouldn't bother with languages at all. Languages is an opening to other ways of seeing and being in the world.